If one day the real owner walked into his own store and no one recognized him, if he was lied to, ignored, treated like he wasn't worth helping, would he stay silent or start everything again from zero? Sometimes, to know who's honest, you have to become someone not worth being honest with. And in that bright-lit room, a laptop priced at $859 would bring an entire system down. The story begins with a very small lie. The door opened, a single chime rang, then vanished. Jack Reed stepped in, wrinkled hoodie, old cap, calm eyes. No name tag, no glasses, no trace of power anywhere. 3 employees huddled by the counter, giggling over a phone screen. No one looked up, no greeting, not even a nod. Jack walked slowly through the aisles, like a traveler stopping mid-journey. The white lights reflected back, cold and even, erasing all expression. He stopped at the laptop section, fingers brushing the edge of the shelf for balance. A price tag stuck beneath the machine, printed clearly, $859. He read it again, slow and steady, as if testing the truth of a promise. He called out softly, patient, gentle. "Hey, kid, I'd like to ask about this one. For a 16-year-old boy. Mostly studying light games, needs decent battery life." One employee strolled over, hands still in pockets, lazy rhythm in his step. The tag said Cole Turner. His eyes glanced past like passing wind. Cole spoke flat, smooth as glass, no pause at all. "That one's $1,500, new price, don't bother with the tag." Jack blinked, eyes drifting back to the paper. $859. He said quietly, "It says $859 here." Cole shrugged, gum popped, half a grin. "Tag's wrong, they haven't updated it, happens all the time. No barcode scan, no system check, no verification. Just a final line, hard as a closed door, sealing all doubt away." Jack stayed silent, letting the pause speak, letting truth stand on its own. He looked around, like a man lost in what used to be home. At the service counter, an old woman fidgeted with her purse strap. She checked her watch, looked at the emptiness, then down again. Nearby, Dylan Parks leaned against a shelf, eyes glued to his screen. The old lady asked softly, "Excuse me, where's the restroom?" Dylan didn't turn, just flicked his hand in a vague direction. "Over there." She turned the wrong way, slowed down, confused. No one called out, no one corrected her, no one noticed. Jack exhaled, short and cold, like AC wind through a thin shirt. He walked the aisle, listening to the store by watching its people. They spoke to their phones, more than to the customers in front of them. A little boy tugged his mother's sleeve, whispering, "They probably can't hear us." She hushed him, eyes still fixed on the scheduling screen. From afar, a voice said, "2 hours left in this shift." "Kill the time," another laughed, returning to a video. No chaos, no breakdown, just a slow, quiet leak. Jack stopped before an old poster, colors faded, edges curling. The words still there, "Respect is built from the ground up." He mouthed them, like reciting an oath long forgotten. His father's words, a man who once knew every name in the store. The man who taught him there are no invisible customers, only inattentive employees. Jack bent down, picked up a small slip of paper, lying by the shelf. A faded receipt, correct model name, price, $859. He folded it, slipped it into his hoodie pocket, like keeping a heartbeat safe. Back at the laptops, he waited a few beats for someone to offer help. No words came, only background music flowing coldly through the air. Cole grinned again, shared something with Dylan. Both nodded. They didn't know the man in the cap was listening. Didn't know he'd already heard enough to diagnose the store's illness. No noise, no urgency, just missing one small thing. A question, an eye contact, a barcode scan that meant respect. Jack turned away, slow and steady, like pulling a needle from a wound. He passed the old lady, still hesitating at the aisle's end. Then a warm, clear voice rose from behind. "Ma'am, this way's the right one." The old woman smiled, surprised, grateful just to be seen. Jack tilted his head, met the eyes of a young woman. Name tag, Mia Lopez. Hair tied neatly, calm presence. She leaned slightly toward the lady, guiding with her voice, not her hands. Then walked back to the counter, glancing briefly at Jack. That look said, "I heard you. The tag is right. Trust it." Jack returned to the same laptop, studied the sign again. He spoke softly. "Could you check this for me?" Mia nodded. No hesitation, no annoyance. Her fingers moved quickly. She read the screen, then smiled. "The price is $8.59. The promotion ends tonight. If you'd like, I can hold it at the counter while you look around." No upsell, no scripted lines, just truth that was enough. Jack nodded, a small gesture, warmth spreading thin but lasting. He stepped back a little, watching the whole scene without losing sight of her. A worker, present, authentic, doing the job by being there. Across the floor, Cole nudged Dylan, both bent over the phone again. Laughter flickered on and off, like a faulty switch. A man holding 2 headphone boxes looked around. No one came. He sighed, set them down, walked out. No one noticed, but the store had just lost a sale. Jack stood still, anchored among the drifting crowd. He wasn't angry, he was remembering. His father's words echoed, "If no one greets you, ask yourself why." He remembered those calloused hands, resting on a new hire's shoulder. Before you sell anything, learn respect. Outside, sunlight stretched a long stripe across the tile floor. Jack touched his pocket, the receipt like a small stone, just heavy enough. He walked past the counter. No one called after him. No goodbye. A whisper behind him. "That guy's not buying anything anyway." Laughter dripped, then faded, like rain that refused to wet the ground. Jack reached the parking lot, paused at his reflection in the glass. He spoke softly, just for himself, just enough to promise. "I don't need glasses to see everything." He opened the door, sat in silence for a long while. No engine, no music, just his heartbeat finding its rhythm again. He took out a small notebook, yellow pages, black pencil. Wrote briefly, like driving nails into damp wood. Cole, lied without checking. Dylan, indifferent, careless flick of a hand. Mia, present, honest, warm enough to trust. He looked up, at the glowing sign of the store. Polished outside, hollow inside, and no one crying for help. He added one more line, no need to underline. No one destroyed this place. They just let it leak, day by day. He closed the notebook, sat upright, hands steady on the wheel. "Tomorrow, I'll come back, but not as a title. Real people only reveal themselves when they think no one's watching." A silence, as long as one breath and one decision. Jack pulled his cap lower, eyes narrowing, a faint smile rising. Everything began with a word ignored and a truth waiting to be heard. Office light spilled across the desk, glinting off a stack of reports left untouched. Jack Reed sat still, eyes fixed on the fogged glass window where the city kept rushing by. In front of him, red numbers crowded the screen. Store 4 down 12%, Store 7 down 18%. 2 consecutive quarters. No clear reason, just a quiet decline. The cursor blinked, the customer feedback sheet already open. Lines poured down like cracks spreading in glass. Rude staff. No one helped. I felt invisible. Jack scrolled slowly, each word hitting his chest like a knock. No background music could cover it. His father's store was losing its soul. He leaned back in his chair, reached for an old photo frame beside the monitor. A faded image, an older man with silver hair, white shirt, smiling. Martin Reed, founder of Reed Electronics, and Jack's father. On his chest, a small badge read only one word, Martin, no title. That smile, the kind that believed in people, not in graphs. Jack flipped the frame over. On the back, a handwritten line, "Son, respect isn't granted by title. It's built from the floor up." The ink had blurred, but the message was as clear as the day it was written. He read it slowly, eyes closed, memory playing like an old film reel. A morning years ago, little Jack running between aisles of the first store. His father was kneeling beside a customer, gently wiping dust from a radio. He smiled as he worked. "We're not selling. We're helping them find what truly works." The customer smiled, left with the old radio polished like new. The boy watched, thinking only one thing: Dad is happy. The memory faded, only the harsh screen remained. Now everything was measured by KPIs, conversion rates, and customer dwell time. Employees looked at dashboards, not at faces. Kindness had been traded for quarterly bonuses. And he, the man sitting here, was the one who'd allowed it. He opened an email from Vice President Carter. Familiar lines appeared. "We need to focus on behavioral data. Add another upsell course and optimize revenue per visitor." Not a single line about people. Not one about real experience. Jack smiled faintly, but it faded when he reached the last sentence. "Store 7 will be restructured to improve efficiency." That word efficiency, repeated in every report, never once paired with dignity. He tapped his fingers on the desk, rhythm steady, counting losses by beat. From a drawer, he pulled an old folder, handwritten time cards from his father's era. Each page scribbled with names, hours, sometimes small notes. Anna left early, child sick. Tom covered Mike's shift, no extra pay. His father had read every line, signing each with real ink, never a stamp. Jack turned to the last page, his father's handwriting again. "Never let numbers hide a face." He reread it, lifted his gaze to the window. Afternoon light cut through the dust, a narrow beam, but clear, like a reminder. He turned back to the monitor, reopened customer feedback. No one looked at me when I asked. Felt like I was bothering them. Cold atmosphere, even though the temperature was fine. Jack exhaled. Every line sounded like a voice speaking to him. He looked down at Carter's signature. "Your loyal partner in performance." Jack murmured, "Performance. Where did passion go?" He picked up his pen, wrote on the corner of a yellow notebook. "No report can save us, if people don't change." He placed his father's frame back on the desk, aligning it with the screen. Two worlds, side by side, one filled with numbers, one filled with memory. One built on charts, one built on human eyes. Jack looked at both, then shook his head. He chose the one with dust and people. He lifted his phone, scrolled through contacts, paused at a long-forgotten name, Diane. An old friend, once a costume designer for the town theater. His voice was quiet, but certain. "Diane, I need a disguise. Older than me, simpler than me, easy to forget." A pause on the other end. "Jack, what are you planning?" He answered softly, "I need to see this world, the way my father did." His hand tightened around the photo, his voice lowering like a promise to the dead. "I'm going back to the floor, Dad, not to inspect, but to remember." The office lights dimmed, leaving only the city glow on the glass. On the desk, the photo frame reflected the silhouette of a son. A man ready to take his first step on a journey that wouldn't begin with power, but with humility. The phone buzzed. A familiar voice broke the years of silence. Jack Reed speaking. A soft laugh came from the other end, then a woman's voice. "So, what play are you starring in this time?" Jack smiled. "No play, just a small role, so I can see the truth." Diane still worked at the old theater, the one he'd once funded for new lights and seats. She joked, but her tone grew gentle. "When a CEO needs a disguise, it must be serious." Jack replied quietly. "There's no other way. I need to see with my own eyes, not through reports, not through managers." Diane paused for a moment, then sighed. "All right, meet me tomorrow morning. I'll have something ready." Even you won't recognize yourself. Morning came. Inside the small theater room, The air carried the scent of fabric, dust, and glue. Diane opened an old suitcase. Inside were a loose jacket, faded jeans, a baseball cap, a few skin patches, and wrinkle paste. "No wigs, no glasses," she said. "You already have the eyes of someone who's lived long enough. You just need to change how you walk and how you breathe between words." Jack chuckled softly. "So, I'm older than I thought, huh?" She placed a hand on his shoulder. "No, you just need to let people believe you don't matter." Before a spotted mirror catching the morning light, Jack pulled on the wrinkled hoodie, the old cap. His posture straightened, then slowly curved, shoulders softening, steps half a beat slower. His voice shifted, lower, rougher. "Hey, kid, I'm looking for a laptop for my nephew. Not sure which one's good." Diane nodded approvingly. "Good. Voice low, eyes not direct. That's how they'll overlook you." Jack looked at his reflection. He wasn't the chairman of Reed Electronics anymore. Just an ordinary man, a little tired, easy to dismiss. Something in him sank, a quiet ache. As he felt, for the first time, what it meant to be unseen. He murmured, "Maybe that's how they've been feeling, all along." Diane closed the suitcase. "Remember, don't act, just listen. Their real selves will speak soon enough." As Jack left the theater, he paused by the door. Morning sunlight streamed across the dust, each mote floating like a thought. He whispered to himself, "Tomorrow, I'll walk into their world. Not with power, just with open eyes." That evening, in the garage, Jack placed a small mirror beside the car. He practiced the walk again, slightly uneven, slow, deliberate. Old hoodie, wrinkled pants, dusty shoes, cap pulled low. No trace left of the man who once stood on stage before hundreds of shareholders. Only a man no one would remember. He stood still for a long time, watching his reflection. "Father," he whispered, "this time, I'm going deep. Not to inspect, but to understand." Jack turned off the garage light. Darkness swallowed the room, except for a narrow beam from the window glinting across his hand. A hand that had signed thousands of contracts, now closing into a quiet promise. Tomorrow, they would only see a stranger walking into the store. But he would finally see its soul. The automatic doors slid open. That familiar chime echoed through the morning air. Jack stepped across the threshold, white light spilling over his hoodie. No one looked. No one spoke. No one knew the man who had just entered was the owner of the place itself. He walked slowly down the main aisle, fingertips grazing the shelves as if to find his way. It was no longer the walk of a man used to giving orders, but of a customer trying not to disturb anyone. No hello, no eye contact, only the soft drag of shoes somewhere far off, and a looping jingle from the ceiling speakers. At the accessories counter, Cole Turner leaned against the wall, phone in one hand, tapping the air with the other. Beside him, Dylan Parks laughed loudly at something on his screen. They talked about the weekend, the game, the party, as if no one else existed in the store. A customer passed by, paused for a few seconds, then moved on, unseen. Jack stopped at the laptop display. The sign read in bold letters, $859, today only. He studied it, fingertips brushing the printed number, as if asking whether it still meant anything. A voice cut in, Cole approaching, still half laughing with Dylan. "Need something, sir?" Jack turned, voice rough, quiet as wind. "I'm looking for a laptop for my nephew. He's in high school." Cole glanced at the tag but didn't bother to bend down. "That one's $1,500. Jack looked again, unsure if he'd heard right. "But it says $859. Cole shrugged. "Old tag. They forgot to change it. Happens all the time." Jack smiled politely, but the smile didn't belong here. "Could you scan it, just to be sure?" Cole sighed. "No need. I know the price." A thin silence settled. Jack looked into Cole's wandering eyes and saw the same emptiness he'd read in those customer complaints. Not deceit, just the hollow of someone who no longer believed in what he did. Cole turned away, leaving Jack standing amid bright aisles that felt colder than ever. Down the row, Dylan still leaned on the shelf, fingers drumming the phone. An elderly woman approached, clutching her purse straps, voice trembling. "Excuse me, young man, where's the restroom?" Dylan didn't look up. He flicked his chin vaguely. "Over there." She turned, walked a few steps, stopped, lost, glancing around. No sign. No help. "No one is watching," Jack observed from afar. He saw her standing between two aisles, uncertain, small. And in that lost look, he saw himself. Indifference isn't loud. It doesn't break things. It just makes people smaller, piece by piece. Then a soft voice rose. "Let me help you, ma'am." Mia Lopez, moving gently, careful not to startle her. She smiled, pointed the right way, then walked with her a few steps. "Go straight, then left. You'll see a blue sign." The old woman smiled. "Thank you, dear. Not many notice anymore." "It's nothing," Mia said warmly. "Just a small thing." Jack watched. Just a moment. But it was the only moment in the store that carried warmth. He turned back. A middle-aged man held two headphone boxes, looking for someone to ask. Cole passed by. Didn't stop, didn't ask, didn't look. The man set the boxes down, exhaled, walked away. Everything moved slowly, as if the store itself were trapped in a long, quiet sleep. Jack approached the checkout counter. A young man waited, tired, voice low. "I just want to exchange this. I've been waiting half an hour." The cashier replied without lifting her eyes. "You need to take a number first." He held up a slip. "I did." "Then wait to be called." He left without another word. She kept typing, face blank as the screen before her. Jack looked around, saw the old slogan hanging above the wall, letters fading. "We don't just sell products, we build trust." He mouthed the words, but couldn't hear a trace of trust anywhere near him. A small boy tugged his mother's hand. "Mom, why won't anyone talk to us?" She stroked his hair softly. "They're just busy, honey." But they both knew. No one really was. Jack sat on a bench near the entrance, quietly opened his notebook. 3 names already written in pencil: Cole, Dylan, Mia. Beneath each, short lines. Cole lied, didn't check. Dylan, indifferent, no eye contact. Mia, caring, present, sincere. He closed the notebook, sat still, staring through the glass. On the other side, Cole laughed with Dylan again. Laughing like nothing in the world required attention. Another customer entered, looked around, no greeting, turned and left. Each one walked out carrying a little less faith, leaving behind an emptiness no one noticed. Jack stayed seated, a shadow blending into the wall. No one realized he was watching. No one knew every small act was being recorded, not by cameras, but by the memory of a son keeping his father's promise. Mia passed by again, holding the elderly woman's phone. Its screen cracked slightly. The woman said anxiously, "I just want to save my photos. They're all of my grandson." Mia nodded. "I'll back them all up for you." She sat beside her, patient, careful not to snatch the device. Her fingers moved gently, explaining each step with a soft smile. "This uploads to the cloud. See? You won't lose anything." The woman watched the screen glow, eyes shimmering. "Thank you, dear. Now I can rest easy." Jack watched, too, his hand tightening slightly, not from anger, but from hope. In a store full of soulless keystrokes, one person was still speaking with heart. He rose, walking slowly toward the door. Cole glanced up, saw him, and didn't recognize him. "Not buying anything, sir?" Jack smiled. "Not today," and walked out. Sunlight spilled across the tiled floor, leaving behind a cold room, but now, with one small crack, the crack of conscience. Outside, Jack paused, opened his notebook again. Beneath the 3 names, he added one more line. No one destroyed this store. They just let it wither, day by day. He closed it. Looked up at the glowing sign, Store 7. The light shone into his eyes, but not deep enough to warm him. A breeze swept by, stirring the sweat-damp hair beneath his cap. Jack whispered, only to himself. "Tomorrow, I'll come back. Not as a customer anymore." He opened the car door, placed the notebook on the seat, started the engine. In the rearview mirror, the store's white light still glared, cold, indifferent. But somewhere inside, a faint glow of warmth remained. A young woman still sat beside an old lady, teaching her how to save memories. One small act, holding onto the last piece of the store's soul. The next morning, Jack returned. Same wrinkled hoodie, same low-pulled cap, same slow, ordinary walk. The door slid open. That soft ting echoed in the cold white air. This time, he didn't look around. He went straight to the counter where the young woman had stood yesterday. Mia Lopez was arranging small boxes on the shelf. Her hands moved carefully, neither rushed nor careless. Each placement sounded like a quiet breath. Jack stood a few steps away, just watching. In a world always rushing, few people still work as if they were in conversation with their work. When she turned, their eyes met. Mia smiled gently. "Good morning, sir. You came back?" Jack nodded. "Yeah, thought I'd better buy it before the sale ends." "You picked the right day," she said softly, but with certainty. "Today's the last." She opened the register, typed a few keys, and read each word carefully from the screen. "The price is still $859. No change." Jack smiled faintly. "You sure you're telling me the truth?" "Absolutely," she replied, "because the first thing I learned here was to tell the truth." The line was simple, yet it struck Jack like the sound of a lock opening. A young person who still believed honesty was the foundation of work. He murmured, "That's good to hear." Mia asked, "You're buying it for your nephew? What grade's he in?" 11th, Jack said. "Likes a quiet machine, long battery, bright screen." She nodded. "Then I'll hold this one for you. I'll lock it in the system so no one takes it." While she worked, an anxious woman approached the counter. "Miss, I can't back up my photos. It keeps showing errors." Mia turned, smiled kindly. "It's okay, ma'am. Let me take a look." She pulled a chair for the woman, eyes focused, gentle as if helping family. Her fingers moved quickly, explaining each step in a calm, low voice. A few minutes later, the photos reappeared on screen. The old lady's eyes filled. She took Mia's hand. "Thank you, dear. It's rare to see someone your age care like this." Mia just smiled, bowed her head, and went back to work. Jack watched every motion, saw the difference clearly. Not skill, presence. People like her worked with heart, not KPI sheets. She didn't know anyone was watching, but she chose to do what was right. That, he thought, was everything. A few minutes later, Dylan walked by, speaking absently. "Mia, how many did you sell yesterday?" "2," she said. Dylan snorted. "That's bad. I sold 5. "Congrats," she answered simply, turning back to her shelf. No anger, no competition, just quiet focus. Jack smiled. Her humility spoke louder than any speech he'd ever given. Then, a young mother approached, baby in arms, holding a cracked phone. "Miss, can you save my photos? They're all from when he was born." Mia nodded softly, taking the phone with care. "No promises, no show, just, I'll try my best." She sat down, head lowered, patient for 10 long minutes, eyes fixed on the code. Finally, the pictures reappeared. The woman broke down in tears, hugging her child. "Thank you, truly." Jack didn't interrupt. He watched as customers rediscovered trust, because one employee bothered to listen. One person, enough to warm the coldest room. Mia printed the receipt, wrapped the laptop neatly, and placed it before him. "Please sign here, sir." Jack held the pen, glanced at the bold print, 859. That number, smaller than any KPI bonus, yet greater than every report he'd ever read. He signed, the hand trembling slightly, then looked up. "You know, your honesty's worth far more than this price." Mia smiled, her eyes glowing with quiet simplicity. I'm just doing what's right, sir. And in that moment, Jack realized, sometimes the one who saves a system isn't the boss, but the one who keeps goodness alive when everyone else forgets what it looks like. As he stepped toward the door, her voice called out, Sir, if the laptop has any issues, come back to me. I'll help. Jack turned, nodded, and smiled. I'll remember. Thank you, Mia. Outside, morning sunlight glimmered on the glass, reflecting onto his face. In that reflection, Jack saw himself smiling for the first time in years, not because of profit, but because of hope. He walked slowly to his car, opened his notebook. Beneath the line, Mia, honest, present, kind, he added, She doesn't try to shine, yet she's the only light left. Jack closed the notebook. A soft breeze passed, carrying the faint scent of new plastic from the store. And for the first time, he believed this place could still be saved. It only needed to start with one person, who tells the truth and listens with her heart. Late afternoon, the small cafe across the street sat nearly empty. Jack sat in the far corner, by the window, where the last light of day spilled across a scarred wooden table. In front of him lay the old notebook, corners curled, spine tired. The smell of coffee drifted through the air, mingling with the faint clink of a spoon against glass. Quiet, yet sharp enough to pierce the stillness. He opened the notebook, turned back to yesterday's page. 3 names waited there, Cole Turner, Dylan Parks, Mia Lopez. Beside each, short lines, precise and unflinching. Cole lied without shame. Dylan, indifferent, as if customers were invisible. Mia, sincere, present, respectful to every person. Jack set the pen down, then looked out through the glass. Across the street, the Store 7 sign still glowed. But that light no longer spoke of pride. It looked more like a reminder that something inside was quietly dying. He began to write again. No one destroys a company. We just let it leak away, day by day, attitude by attitude. The pen stopped, trembled slightly. Jack remembered his father's face in the old photograph. White shirt, kind smile, dusty but warm hands. His father used to say, You don't have to be the best, son. Just be the last one who still believes in decency. He closed his eyes, hearing that voice again, echoing softly from the past. Outside, cars passed, their reflections breaking across the tabletop like ripples. Jack opened his eyes, staring at the page before him. Each line suddenly weighed more than every number he had ever chased. He wrote again, the strokes darker now. If I don't change, my father's store will die, and no one will even notice. Tomorrow, I'll take off the mask. No more reports. I'll look them in the eyes. He closed the notebook, sat there for a while longer. The coffee had gone cold, but its scent still lingered in the air. On the table, the lamp's reflection shimmered faintly against the cover, highlighting the newest pencil mark like a quiet oath. Jack rose slowly, notebook in hand. Each step on the tiled floor sounded like the heartbeat of a man learning to believe again. And for the first time in years, he did believe. Not in the system, not in KPIs, but in a young woman named Mia Lopez, who still carried a small flame in a dark room. Outside, the evening wind passed through. Jack pulled his cap lower, looked up at the gray sky, and whispered, Tomorrow, Father, I'll begin again. This time, not with power, but with faith. He left the cafe behind, the table still bearing a faint ring of his cup. A small trace of the moment when real resolve was born, in silence. The next morning, the top-floor office sat silent, a block of cold glass against the sky. Jack sat alone in the small meeting room, only the screen's glow and a cup of black coffee at his right. The door opened. Mr. Carter walked in, tablet in hand, a professional smile already set. Morning, sir. I brought this week's report. Jack only nodded. Carter sat, swiped the screen, voice flat and steady. Overall, KPIs are stable, Upsell up 6%, average wait time down by 2 minutes. Store 7 is a bit slow, but nothing alarming. Jack remained silent. Carter looked up. Is something wrong? Jack answered quietly, I went there yesterday. Carter frowned. You went to store 7? Yes, not as chairman, just as a regular customer. Carter offered a small, embarrassed laugh. Oh, you did a field check. Good. Jack looked straight at him. I was lied to, twice. The air in the room changed. Carter stiffened. Lied? About what? Jack turned the laptop toward him. On the screen, a clip from the security camera. Cole was standing behind the counter, phone in hand, speaking without lifting his eyes. I asked the price of a laptop. The tag read $859, he said. $1,500. Jack paused for a few beats. No scan, no system check, no second glance, just a sentence stated like a verdict. Carter swallowed. Maybe the tag was wrong that day, or the staff hadn't updated prices. Jack opened the second video. Dylan leaned against a shelf, listening to music, fingers scrolling a phone. An elderly woman asked where the restroom was. He didn't turn, only gestured vaguely, then kept tapping. He pointed her the wrong way. She wandered for nearly 10 minutes. Jack's voice was calm, but every word hit like a weight on the floor. Carter tried to stay composed. Maybe they were short-staffed. Things aren't always perfect. Jack looked at him for a long time. That wasn't a bad day. That was an ordinary day, and that's what's frightening. He closed the laptop. Carter, I don't need numbers that sing. I need people who look up. Carter went quiet, hands folded. Jack continued. You say upsell rose, but what if they raised sales by lying? You say wait times is shorter, but what if customers stopped asking at all? Carter inhaled, voice smaller. I only monitor the data, nothing flagged. Jack replied softly, That's why I went. Data can't feel indifference. He pushed a thin file toward Carter. Read these customer responses. Line 1, no one spoke to me. Line 2, I felt like a bother when I asked. Line 3, staff smiled but didn't meet my eyes. Carter read them, tried a weak smile. These are isolated incidents. Jack cut him off. No, that's the summary of a sickness. He spoke slowly, each word clear. They forgot this job isn't about selling. It's about helping people find what they need. The meeting room fell silent. Only the air conditioner hummed, cold and steady like habit. Jack sipped his coffee, eyes on Carter. You know, my father used to say, you can teach someone how to sell, but you can't teach them to care if they don't want to. Carter sat upright, gaze on the dark tablet. So, what do you want me to do? Jack answered plainly, Not you, me. Carter looked up, puzzled. I'll go back to store 7. No disguise this time. No hiding. I want them to know who's watching. His voice was low and firm, like an oath. Carter opened his mouth, then closed it. He only nodded, quietly. I understand. Good luck. Jack stood, gathered the files. Luck isn't necessary, he said. Honesty will do. He left the room. The door clicked, sounding like a full stop to an era run by numbers. Behind the glass, his reflection faded, leaving only the outline of a man preparing to return to his battlefield. A single line echoed in his mind. If no one will look at the truth, I will be the first to look. The next morning, the sky was wrapped in a pale gray. Jack stepped out of his car, black polo, dark jeans, no cap, no glasses, no disguise. Everything simple, yet his presence was different, steady, quiet, needing no introduction. The doors slid open, that familiar ting echoed in the cold air. Inside, nothing had changed. Cole stood behind the counter, chewing gum, scrolling through his phone. Dylan leaned against the accessory shelf, mid-conversation with someone. No one noticed the man walking in. Jack went straight ahead, said nothing. He stopped at the service desk, looked at the clerk. I'd like to see Cole and Dylan, right now. His voice wasn't loud, wasn't cold, but it carried weight. The girl nodded quickly, hands trembling as she lifted the intercom. A few minutes later, footsteps came down the hallway. Cole first, same swagger, gum still moving. Dylan followed, bored eyes drifting. Both froze when they saw Jack sitting in the small office at the end of the hall. No old man in a hoodie this time, only someone they didn't know how to address. "Sit down." Jack's voice was soft, but clear. They looked at each other, neither moved. "If you'd rather stand," he said, "that's fine, this won't take long." Cole squinted. "Wait, you're that guy from the other day, right? The one asking about laptops?" Jack nodded slowly. "Yes, and also the one who signs your paychecks." The air thickened. Dylan straightened. Cole swallowed hard, the gum in his mouth suddenly bitter. What?" "I'm Jack Reed, the owner of this company, and of this store." No one spoke. Only the sound of the clock's second hand, slow, heavy, relentless. Jack took a step toward them, his gaze calm but unyielding. "I'm not here to scare anyone. I just want to understand what happened to the culture my father built." Cole spoke first. I thought the tag was wrong. I just said what I assumed." Jack shook his head slightly. "No, you didn't say maybe. You said it as fact. You didn't scan, didn't check, didn't verify. You chose the easy way. You chose to lie." His tone didn't rise, but each word cut clean, cold as glass. Cole dropped his eyes. "I just wanted to make the sale. Management said we had to be confident. Push numbers." Jack met his gaze. "Confidence isn't the same as fabrication," and Dylan tensed. "The lady asking for the restroom. You pointed without looking, and kept scrolling. Do you remember?" He stayed silent. Jack's voice slowed. "You didn't have to shout or bow. Just a look, a simple kindness. But you chose to turn away. And that's how people make customers feel invisible." Silence. Jack folded his arms, looked at both of them. "I don't need people who say sorry after they're caught. I need people who do what's right when no one's watching." Cole lifted his head. "So, you're saying we don't get another chance?" Jack shook his head gently. "No, I'm saying you already had one, and you threw it away." A long pause. Carter, the area assistant manager, stood in the hallway, frozen. Jack gestured to the clerk outside. "Revoke their system access. Collect their badges. Effective immediately." She nodded, left, closed the door. Cole's voice cracked. "You're really firing us?" "No," Jack said calmly. "You fired yourselves. I'm just signing the paperwork." Dylan muttered. "If we'd known you were the owner." Jack cut him off. "You'd have acted differently? Then you only know how to respect power. What about everyone else who walks through that door? Aren't they worth respect too?" Neither spoke. Both lowered their heads. Jack exhaled softly. "My father used to say, a man can sweep the floor or run the company. But the moment he loses respect, it's the same failure." He looked at them, not angry, not pitying, just with the calm sorrow of someone seeing his own illness reflected in others. "Go," he said quietly. "No need to explain. I just hope that one day, when you work somewhere else, you'll remember this. Remember that truth never costs a job, only lies do." Cole left first, eyes red. Dylan followed, silent. The door closed. Jack stood still in the empty room, his hand resting on the desk, heart heavy. He didn't feel victory, only the hollow weight of responsibility. He turned toward the window. Outside, the Store 7 sign still glowed. But this time, in the reflection, he saw something different. For the first time, that light was shining where it was needed most. He whispered to himself, "No culture is ever cleaned by reports. It starts with one painful decision." Then he stepped out, into the hum of the store beyond, where a new chapter was waiting to begin, not through power, but through discipline and faith. The office door closed behind Cole and Dylan, leaving the air inside still heavy. Jack stood still for a few seconds, then drew a slow breath and stepped out. The store was quieter than usual. The chatter had faded. Everyone could feel something had shifted. At the far end of the aisle, Mia Lopez was arranging the new boxes on the shelf. She didn't know what had just happened, only looked up when Jack approached. "Good morning, sir," she said softly, the same honest tone as always. Jack nodded. A faint smile flickered, then vanished. "Do you have a minute, Mia?" She blinked in surprise. "Yes, sir." They walked toward the employee break area, dimmer light, no one watching. Jack leaned gently against the table, his hands interlaced. "Mia, do you know what I did today?" She shook her head. "I just let 2 people go." Mia froze. "Why?" Jack looked at her. "Because they forgot the most important thing. People." She said nothing. A short silence stretched between them. Jack continued, voice calm but steady. "I've been watching you these past few days. You don't sell with promises. You only tell the truth. You don't ignore someone who needs help, even when no one's looking. Do you know what that is?" Mia whispered. "Responsibility?" Jack shook his head. "No, value." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a new nameplate, its brushed steel glint catching the low light. "This store doesn't need another manager. It needs someone to lead by presence." Mia froze. "You mean—" Jack smiled gently. "Starting today, you'll be floor-led." She stepped back, half a pace, eyes wide. "But I've never led anyone. I don't know the full system yet. Jack raised a hand, cutting her off softly. "You don't need to know everything. Skills can be taught, but honesty and presence can't." He paused, letting the silence rest between words. "Skills can be trained, values can't." Mia lowered her head, eyes shimmering. "I'm afraid I'll make mistakes." Jack nodded. "Then make them. Just don't stay silent. A leader isn't the one who's always right. It's the one who's always real." She held the nameplate in her hands, trembling slightly. "Why do you trust me so much?" Jack's eyes softened, steady and warm. "Because while everyone else talks about KPIs, you're the only one who listens to customers." His voice dropped lower, almost a whisper. "And because you remind me of what my father used to say, respect begins on the floor, not in the office." A light breeze slipped through the door crack. Mia looked down at the plate, the words, "Floor lead," Mia Lopez glowing softly under the yellow light. "I'll do my best," she said quietly. "You don't need to try," Jack replied. "Just stay who you are." They stepped out together. The remaining staff looked up, curious, uncertain. Jack stopped near the main counter and spoke clearly. "Starting today, Mia Lopez will lead the floor. If you need anything, go to her." No applause, just a few stunned faces and a few quiet nods. Mia turned to Jack and whispered, "What should I say to them?" "Nothing," he said. "Just let them see. You're still yourself." She nodded, took a deep breath, then walked toward the team. A small smile formed, not one of authority, but of sincerity. She straightened her shirt, pinned the nameplate to her chest, and began asking each person how their morning was, just as she always did. Jack stood back, watching in silence. For the first time, calm filled his face. Not because everything was fixed, but because he knew he had chosen the right person to begin again. The window reflected a faint light, shining on the old plaque he had long ignored. Built from the floor up, Jack read it softly. "Yes, Father," from the floor. And in the thin breeze beyond the door, he smiled quietly, knowing the journey to restore the soul of Store 7 had truly begun with one shining nameplate in the hands of an honest heart. Early morning, the lights in the break room flicked on. Mia was already there, standing before the schedule board, the scent of fresh marker still in the air. Her hands trembled slightly, her heart caught between fear and something new. Behind her, a few employees shuffled in, holding coffee cups, chatting quietly. She turned, offered a small smile. "Thanks for coming in early, everyone." Her voice was soft, but firm. She took a breath. "Starting today, we begin with something simple." Heads lifted, a few eyes still on their phones. No one gets ignored, no customer gets left unseen, whether they buy something or nothing at all. Silence spread for a few seconds. One person nodded, others just looked at each other. In the corner, Caleb leaned against the shelf, earbuds deep in his ears, faint music leaking out. Mia glanced at him, but didn't speak yet. She continued, calm and steady. I don't care about sales numbers. I care about eyes and presence. The room stayed quiet. Caleb kept scrolling. Mia looked straight at him, voice even. Caleb, no reaction. She said again, softer. Caleb, I need you to listen. He pulled one earbud out, lazy voice. I am listening. She nodded. Then look at me when I talk. He lifted his eyes, half a smirk, half defiance. The air grew tight. But Mia's tone stayed gentle. If we're here, then be here. No one laughed. No one spoke. Only the faint hiss of the coffee machine filled the pause. She waited a few beats, then said quietly, 5 minutes to open. Today, we start again. People drifted off to their stations. Caleb stayed put, sliding his earphones back in, muttering, touching speech. She heard it, but didn't answer. Just looked at him once more, then turned away. And through the narrow glass door, Jack Reed stood in silence, watching it all. When the store opened, something in the air felt new. Mia moved from aisle to aisle, straightening price tags, checking in with each person. She spoke softly, never commanded. Look at them when you greet them, she said. That's all. Dylan and Cole were gone. Their absence said enough. Later that morning, Jack stepped out of the office. No one noticed him behind the accessory counter, quietly observing. Mia was helping a customer exchange a faulty product, her tone calm, patient. Caleb stood nearby, arms crossed, eyes drifting. She asked him, Caleb, could you grab me a new charging box, please? He didn't answer. She asked again, still gentle. Still silence. She nodded once, reached for the box herself, said nothing. Jack saw everything. He didn't step in. Not yet. When the morning shift ended, Mia gathered the team. Thank you for the first morning, she said. It wasn't easy, but it's a start. Some smiled. Others just nodded. Caleb leaned against the wall, earbuds back in. Mia looked at him, not angry. Caleb, I need you to hear this. He shrugged. I already did. Mia met his eyes. No, you're here, but you're not present. The room fell still. Her tone didn't rise. No humiliation, only truth. No one forces you to be here, but if you choose to stay, show up with your attitude, too. Caleb smirked. I didn't do anything wrong. She replied quietly. Exactly, and that's the problem. The break room door opened. Jack stepped in, gaze calm but sharp. He looked straight at Caleb. What's your name? Caleb, the young man said, startled. Caleb, Jack repeated slowly, you're done here. He frowned. I don't understand. You don't need to. I've watched you all morning. When others spoke, you turned away. When you were asked, you stayed silent. You didn't destroy anything, but you didn't build anything either. Caleb straightened, words rising but failing to come. Jack stepped closer. You think working means showing up. I think working means being present. Those are not the same thing. The room stayed silent. Mia lowered her eyes, letting Jack finish. He looked around at everyone. If you're only here to stand and watch, the door's open. Store 7 doesn't need silence. Caleb pulled off his badge, set it on the table, and walked out. The air grew still again. Jack turned to Mia. You were right to call him out. You handled it well. She shook her head gently. I just followed what you said. Skills can be learned, but values can't. Jack smiled faintly. And now you're learning the hardest skill of all, keeping your values in the noise. Outside, customers began to fill the aisles. Mia drew a breath, turned back toward the floor, her voice steady. Thank you, everyone. Now let's really work. The doors opened again, sunlight flooded in, and Store 7 seemed to breathe differently. No one said it aloud, but everyone felt it. A new culture was being built, from one simple sentence. No one gets ignored. The next morning, the sky hung pale gray, like a thin layer of dust over the city. Store 7 opened its doors, And the day began with everything no one expected. 2 employees called in sick with the flu. A shipment arrived late. The receipt printer jammed. The customer service line wouldn't stop ringing. Mia Lopez stood at the center of the floor, eyes scanning the chaos, breath steadying. "Stay calm," she whispered to herself, smoothing her hair, voice low. She had never seen the store this chaotic. A middle-aged customer tapped the counter. "Miss, I've been waiting 20 minutes." Mia smiled gently, stepping closer. "I'm so sorry, sir. Let me check that for you." Behind her, a child screamed, throwing a toy box to the floor. Another clerk wrestled with a frozen refund screen. A Bluetooth speaker blasted an ad in the middle of peak hour. Jack Reed stood a few meters away, arms folded, silent. No expression, no interference. He was watching to see if the spirit Mia brought could hold through the storm. Mia moved from station to station, handling every request, missing no one. "Jason, please take care of the customer in the TV section." "Nah, check stock in warehouse B." "Eli, follow up on the delayed order and update me when you hear back." Her words were short, clear, firm without force. The door chimed again. A woman entered, holding her son. The boy's arm was in a cast, clutching a tablet with a shattered screen. The mother looked around, anxious. Mia approached softly. "Hi, ma'am. How can I help?" The woman hesitated. "It fell. I just need the photos backed up. It has his birthday pictures." Mia knelt down, meeting the boy's eyes. "Tough week, huh?" He nodded silently. "It's okay. Let's fix what can be fixed." She plugged in a cable, checked the system, hands quick but gentle. Minutes later, the screen lit up. The data was saved. The mother exhaled, eyes wet. "Thank you, so much." "It's nothing, ma'am. The photos are safe. Just move them to new storage." The boy smiled, nodded. And in that moment, amid the noise, a small pocket of peace appeared. Jack watched quietly, then nodded once. He wrote in his notebook, "Leadership doesn't live in meetings. It lives in the noise." Across the room, Eli was helping an older couple with a flyer in hand. They stared at 2 big-screen TVs, unsure. Eli spoke softly. "No push, no sales pitch. This one might suit you better. Easier setup, saves a few $100s." The man frowned. "You don't want to sell me the expensive one?" Eli smiled. "I sell what's right, not what's higher." They both chuckled. A slow nod followed. Jack watched, his eyes brightening. Even in crisis, some still chose integrity. Time passed. Customers came and went. No one complained, but everyone was tired. Near noon, Mia leaned against the counter, catching her breath, sweat shining at her temples. Na brought her a bottle of water. "Here, drink this." Mia smiled, voice hoarse. "Thanks. Are we holding up?" Na nodded. "So far, yes." Mia looked up at the clock, then around the store. It had never felt so alive. But behind her calm eyes was quiet fear. She knew, if today failed, all their progress could vanish. At the service counter, an impatient customer argued with a clerk. "You said warranty, now you're telling me 3 more days?" Mia stepped in gently. "I'm sorry, sir. Let me review your order personally." He snapped. "You people always check. No one ever takes responsibility." She stayed silent. Let him finish. Then said softly, "You're right. Responsibility is ours. Let me carry that part." A pause. The man sighed. "Fine. I'll wait." Jack wrote another line. "When others bring heat, be the place where it cools." By afternoon, the warehouse called system crash. No one knew where the incoming stock was. Mia entered the dusty back room, sleeves rolled, voice steady. "It's okay. We'll log it by hand. Slower is fine. At least we stay in control." Eli frowned. "That'll delay tonight's delivery." Mia answered, "Better late and right than fast and wrong." Outside the glass panel, Jack watched, nodding slightly. No orders, no instructions, just one more note in his book. This is how trust is rebuilt, one small decision at a time. When the clock hit closing time, everyone was exhausted. The aisles emptied, lights dimmed. Mia sat on the floor, back against the wall, papers scattered beside her. Eli approached, smiling wearily. "We survived." She laughed, voice rough. "Yeah, but I think we did more than survive." The door opened. Jack walked in, holding 2 cups of coffee. "One for you, no sugar." She blinked, surprised. "You're still here?" "I wanted to see how Store 7 ends its day." He sat on a chair, looking around. "You know why I didn't step in today?" Mia looked at him, puzzled. "Because I needed to see how you'd stand when I wasn't there." She lowered her eyes to the cup. "There were moments I wanted to quit. But you didn't." She smiled faintly. "If I did, who'd be left to prove kindness still belongs here?" Jack was quiet for a long second. He thought of his father, and the day he once said the same thing. Then he spoke softly. "You're saving more than a store, Mia." Outside, the Store 7 sign glowed warm against the glass. In its reflection, Jack saw a young woman in a wrinkled uniform, hair undone, eyes bright. And he realized this was something no report could ever measure. He wrote the final line of the day. "The storm doesn't destroy values, it only reveals who truly has them." As they stood up together, the shutter doors rolled down. The sound of metal echoed steady, like a heartbeat finding its rhythm again. Store 7 was far from perfect. But for the first time, it was alive. That night, Jack sat alone in his top-floor office. Streetlights spilled through the glass, glinting off the worn edges of his notebook. The last page of the day closed with 4 slow words: "Need someone real." He picked up his phone, dialed an old number he hadn't used in years. A voice answered, low, steady, slightly rough. "It's been a while since you called me, Jack." "I need you," he said softly. No slides, no slogans, just presence. A pause. "You want me on the floor?" "Yes, 6 weeks. No chair, no office." A quiet laugh. "Classic you. You'll take it?" "I'll be there in the morning." The next day, Store 7 opened under its usual lights. Only one thing was different. A silver-haired woman with a straight posture walked in first. No one knew who she was. Gray shirt, black trousers, low shoes. She carried a small bag, no laptop, only a notebook and 2 pens. Mia noticed and stepped forward. "Good morning, ma'am. May I help you?" The woman smiled faintly. "I'm here to see how you help others." Jack appeared behind her, voice calm. "Mia, this is Miss Grant." Miss Grant nodded. "Mr. Reed asked me here, not to teach, but to hold up a mirror." The sentence froze the staff nearby. Miss Grant didn't greet, didn't circle with pleasantries. She walked the floor slowly, her eyes scanning every corner. A tilted shelf, a crooked tag, a loose cable. She stopped at each, jotting quiet notes. No judgment, no speech. Mia followed, uneasy. Finally, Miss Grant stopped by the service counter, where Eli handled a return. "How long have you worked here?" "Almost 8 months. Do you like it?" Eli hesitated. "I do, especially lately." "Why lately?" "Because someone started listening." Miss Grant nodded, wrote one line in her notebook, "Listens first, Mia Lopez." At noon, she called a small group into the break room. No slides, no plan. Just a whiteboard and a marker. 3 words appeared as she wrote: visible, present, accountable. Beneath them, smaller letters: drifting, watching, hiding. The room went silent. She looked at each face, her tone calm and even. 4 of you are truly working, the rest are merely here." No one spoke. A chair scraped lightly. Na bit her lip. Eli looked up, surprised. Miss Grant didn't scold. She wrote another line: "Fairness starts with effort." Then turned to Mia. "Do you know why this store still has a chance?" Mia shook her head. "Because you never tried to look perfect. You stayed real." Mia stayed quiet. "But being real isn't enough," Miss Grant continued. You need structure. You can't expect people to change just by watching you. Her voice cut clean, not cruel, only sharp. Jack stood in the corner, silent. He didn't interrupt. He knew this was why he'd brought her here, to bring discipline back without killing humanity. Later that afternoon, with customers thinning, Miss Grant walked the floor again. She paused as Eli helped an older couple choose a laptop. He didn't push, he listened, asked questions, offered a mid-range option. The couple smiled, agreed to buy. She wrote another note. Empathy sells longer than confidence. When the last customer left, she closed her notebook and said quietly to Jack, They have roots forming, but not yet deep. And you'll plant them? He asked. No, I'll water them. The one who plants is Mia. That evening, Mia found her in the break room, still writing alone. She asked softly, Did I do something wrong today? Miss Grant looked up, a faint smile. Of course you did. Mistakes mean you're actually doing the work. Mia exhaled, nodding. Miss Grant continued, Do you know your real problem? Not yet. You're trying to carry everyone. That's not leadership. That's exhaustion. Mia chuckled quietly. I'm just afraid they won't keep up. Then teach them, don't carry them. The words sank deep, still as a bell in the night. Miss Grant closed her notebook, stood, and touched Mia's shoulder. I'm not here to make you better. I'm here to see how real you'll stay. Mia looked up, eyes bright. I'll do my best. Miss Grant smiled. Don't do it for me. Bring this place back to life. That's your answer. From the glass pane, Jack watched them, two women, one seasoned, one rising, standing together in soft light. One embodied discipline, the other grace. And he knew the heartbeat of Store 7 had just found a new rhythm. The next morning, the air in the break room felt heavier than usual. Miss Grant stood in front of the same whiteboard as yesterday, the words, visible, present, accountable still there, dry ink, firm strokes. Below them, she added a new line in smaller but sharper letters, drifting, watching, hiding. Everyone stood in a half circle. No one spoke. Mia looked at the board, then around the room. Miss Grant set the marker down, her voice calm. No one is being judged today. We're only seeing where we truly are. She pointed to the top row. Visible means the courage to show up, not to hide in the crowd. Present means to be here with attitude, not just your body. Accountable means to take responsibility even when no one's watching. Then her hand dropped to the lower row. Drifting means you move only because the shift moves. Watching means you stand still while something wrong happens. Hiding means you're afraid to be seen. No one breathed too loud. The only sound was her pen tapping lightly against the board. She turned to Mia. Now you tell me, where is this store? Mia paused, eyes tracing the words, then spoke softly. We're in the middle, half visible, half drifting. Miss Grant nodded. Honest, and that's the best place to begin. Eli raised his hand carefully. How do we know when we've moved up? By repeating the right action. Until no one needs to ask anymore. Na looked down, hands tight together. She whispered, And if someone never changes? Miss Grant's gaze met hers, not cold, just true. Then the store will change for them. Mia drew a deep breath. She stepped forward. Then let me start. She picked up the marker and wrote under the chart, Structure over chaos. Then turned to the group. From today, we make everything clear. Who handles what? Who reports to whom? No one gets forgotten. Her tone wasn't loud, but steady. No one here is just floating. If you need help, ask. If you make a mistake, own it. If you see someone left behind, step forward. The room stayed silent, but their eyes changed. Not fear, attention. Jack stood outside the glass wall, watching. He didn't step in, just listened. The light hit the board, glowing over the words, visible, present, accountable, like 3 beating hearts. That afternoon, Mia sat with Jack in the small office behind the stockroom. On the desk lay a paper filled with slanted handwriting. Read Store Culture Manual, Draft 1. Jack asked, "What are you working on?" "Writing down what Store 7 is learning, so no one has to start from zero again." Jack smiled. "A culture handbook?" "No, a book that keeps the soul of this place." She kept writing. "Morning check-in. Ask about people, not numbers. Every customer must be looked in the eye within 1 minute. When something breaks, say, 'I'm responsible.' When something works, say, 'I learned this.'" She looked up. "If someone reads this one day, they'll know we chose a different way." Jack nodded. "We'll need more people who can build, not just keep." "What do you mean?" "A deputy. Someone who can help you lay the foundation when I'm gone." Mia thought for a moment. She wrote in the corner of the page, "Deputy, builder, not babysitter. That person should know how to listen without fearing silence," she said. Jack added, "And teach without commanding." The afternoon light stretched across the wall, their reflections faint on the glass. Mia paused, glancing through to the floor. The team was working quietly, not perfect, but steady. Na helped a customer print a receipt. Eli showed an older woman how to link her phone to the TV. No one stared at their phones anymore. Only soft voices and nods of understanding. Miss Grant walked by, stopped behind Jack, and spoke quietly. "I don't need to say another word. This girl knows the road." Jack smiled gently. "You always show up at the right time." "No," she replied. "I only show up when a store truly wants to live." Mia looked at the board one more time. She erased the words drifting, watching, hiding, and wrote fresh lines with white chalk: growing, learning, owning. The room went still. A small gesture, yet it felt like someone had opened a window in an old room. Light poured in, touching the new white letters. Jack murmured, "That's what my father would have done. Erase the old, to make room for what's growing." Mia smiled softly. "What's growing isn't revenue, it's people." Outside, the Store 7 sign glowed against the glass. The letters reflected over each other, like a steady heartbeat. No one spoke again, because they all knew the foundation had been set, and from this day forward, this place would never be the same. That morning, the store floor was still dim. The neon lights hadn't fully warmed up. Only a few pale streaks from the street sign slipped through the glass. No one was there, except a young man kneeling beside the checkout counter, holding a small mop. He worked slowly, carefully, wiping every corner without missing a speck. His uniform collar was crisp. On his chest, a small tag read, "Store 7, Trainee." That was Noah Kim, hired just yesterday. He paused, looked at the reflection in the glass, and smiled to himself. "Before you start, clean the place you'll stand." His voice was soft, but it carried through the stillness. Mia walked in, stopping mid-step. "What are you doing here this early?" Noah stood, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Just wanted to make it clean, so when everyone walks in it feels right." "No one told you to do that," she said quietly. "I know, but I think this store deserves better." Mia looked at him, half surprised, half moved. There was nothing showy in his tone, just a young man speaking truth. She nodded gently. "Good, Noah. Keep that habit." He smiled. "I don't know how to be better than anyone else, but I know how to start small." The back door clicked open. Jack Reed stepped in, coffee in hand, the calm weight of leadership in his walk. He stopped, taking in the scene. "Who told you to mop the floor at this hour?" Noah hesitated. "No one, sir. I just thought if something needs doing, I should start." Jack looked at the gleaming floor, then at the light in the boy's eyes. "You know, most people wait until they're paid to do what's right. You did it first, before asking if anyone would notice." He set his coffee down, voice low and even. "That's how a person begins to belong." Mia smiled faintly. Jack nodded at her, as if confirming what he already knew. "You know what I used to tell my old staff, Noah?" Noah shook his head. "Skills can be trained, values can't." Noah bowed slightly. I understand, sir. Morning brightened. As the team arrived, they noticed the spotless floor. Na asked, "Who cleaned this?" Noah just smiled. Maybe someone wanted the store to look better. Mia glanced at him, whispering, "People like that are rare." Miss Grant entered, steady steps, sharp eyes. She scanned the room, then the floor. "Looks good," she said briefly. "Who did it?" Mia started to answer, but Noah spoke softly. "I did, ma'am." She nodded, her expression softened just a touch. "You're new?" "Yes, ma'am." "Then welcome. We don't need perfect people here, just decent ones." She walked on, as if the words were routine, but everyone knew they rarely reached a new hire. When the doors opened, the first rush of customers came in. Noah stood by the entrance, greeting each one with a small bow. No pretense, no script. He helped an old woman lift her box into the car after she dropped it. He picked up a flyer from the floor, folded it neatly, slipped it into the recycle bin. Small acts no one asked for, yet everyone noticed. Jack stood at a distance, murmuring to Mia, "See that? A healthy culture always knows how to call the right people in." Mia watched Noah laughing with a young customer and nodded. And they don't come to stand out, they come to contribute. By late afternoon, the store quieted again. Mia walked over and handed Noah a bottle of water. "First day okay?" He smiled. "It was good. I just hope I helped enough." "You've helped more than you realize." He nodded, still humble. "I just want everyone who walks out of this place to breathe a little easier." Mia looked at him, then up at the wall where the motto hung, "No one gets ignored." She whispered, almost to herself, "Maybe this is the real beginning." Outside, the sunset spilled across the glass of Store 7. The golden light reflected over the words, "Values first." And in that reflection, three figures stood together: Jack, Mia, and Noah, silent, still. A store that once lost its way had finally found its soul again. That morning, the air felt different. Sunlight streamed through the glass, dancing over the sign "No one gets ignored," glimmering softly on the counter. Mia Lopez stood in the center of the floor, clipboard in hand, heart steady, calm. She drew a breath and smiled. Today was the first internal audit since Store 7's rebuild. The team stood in line. Noah was at the front, his hands still a little dusty from wiping shelves. Na, Eli, and two new hires looked composed now, no longer uncertain. And at the far end stood Miss Grant, arms crossed, eyes stern but warm. Jack Reed said nothing, just watched quietly from the back. Gray shirt, hands in his pockets. Mia began, her tone low and clear. "I know everyone's tired, but today isn't about inspection. It's about proving that we chose right." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the room. "Since the day I came here, I've learned something. We don't change because we're threatened. We change because we choose to do what's right, even when no one's watching." The room grew still. Eli nodded softly. Noah's hands tightened, his eyes brightened. "In the corner," Jack tilted his head, a faint, real smile forming. The door opened. The audit team stepped in. A tall, middle-aged man holding a tablet looked around. "This store was ranked dead last year," he said, his tone cool. Miss Grant replied slowly, "And this year, it's the first one I've seen where the staff smile before the doors open." The man hesitated, just a second. Jack remained silent, simply observing. Mia stepped forward and introduced the team. Each spoke briefly about their role. Na explained their new process. No customer left behind. Eli described the 5 Honest Minutes program. Every customer gets one question beyond the product to understand their real need. Noah spoke about volunteering for the closing shift, not for points, but because I want tomorrow to start clean. The inspector noted quietly, nodded once. Then he asked, "And if something goes wrong, who's responsible?" Without hesitation, the whole team answered together, "I am." The words landed evenly, soft but unshakable. Jack drew a deep breath. He remembered his father's old line, "Respect isn't given by a title, it's built from the floor up." For the first time, he felt that truth had returned home. The audit ended without applause. No cheers, no announcements. Just quiet looks exchanged, understanding that Store 7 had weathered the storm. As the team departed, Miss Grant turned to Jack. "I think you should say something." He shook his head. "No, this isn't my day." He looked at Mia, and she understood. She stepped forward, voice steady. "We don't need to be perfect to deserve respect. We just need to stay decent, long enough for it to become habit." She paused for one breath. "Thank you for staying when walking away was easier." Applause broke out, not loud, but real. Noah smiled. Na wiped her eyes. Eli whispered, "Now I understand why this is called Store 7, not just a store." Jack walked into the circle, holding a small wooden plaque. On it were carved the words, "Leadership is what you do when no one's watching." He hung it on the main wall, just below "No one gets ignored." 2 lines, side by side, like a quiet oath. Everyone looked up. No one spoke. Jack turned to Mia. "You're holding this place better than anyone I've ever chosen." She answered softly, "I just did what you taught me." He shook his head. "No, you did what I forgot." Silence lingered. Gentle, full. Light poured through the glass, touching every face that had changed. No one looked down anymore. No one hid. Each stood upright, confident, present. Jack watched them and said quietly, "My father used to call this a store for electronics. From now on, I'll call it a store for trust." Outside, traffic and wind blended into one sound. The Store 7 sign caught the sunlight, glowing brighter than ever. No slogans, no music, just calm after a long road back. Inside, Mia glanced around, her eyes landing on Noah, who was quietly polishing the glass door again. She smiled. "No one told you to do that?" He replied, "No need to. I'm just keeping my first promise." The light reflected, showing their silhouettes in the glass. People who once stood apart, now united in one reflection. One store, one philosophy, one heartbeat. Steady and true. Values first, success after. Late afternoon, sunlight slanted through the glass. Store 7 was almost empty now, only the soft wind threading through the sign outside. Jack Reed stood alone by the exit, his hand resting on the wooden plaque mounted to the wall, the carved words catching the light. "Leadership is what you do when no one's watching." His fingers brushed across it, eyes distant, as if touching his father's memory. Inside him, the old images came back slowly. Martin Reed's silver hair bent beneath the dusty warehouse beams, rough hands, steady and warm. "You can't teach someone to be decent, son. You can only show them what decency looks like when you live it." Jack smiled faintly. He looked around the store, once a wound, now a witness. Eli was showing an elderly customer how to print a receipt. Noah was packing a box for a mother with her child. Mia stood by the counter, quietly guiding a new hire, her smile calm and sure. No one was perfect, but everyone was present. Jack walked slowly down the aisle, fingertips brushing each shelf. The layout hadn't changed much since the day he returned, but the air felt completely different. No half-hearted laughter, no avoiding eyes. Now, the place had a soul. He stopped by the window. Clouds drifted slow. The sunset poured gold across the glass. A store can sell 1,000 products, but it only has one soul, its people. He noticed a small slip of paper on the floor. A warranty note. Mia's handwriting across the bottom. "Thank you for trusting us." He folded it gently, slipped it into his pocket, and headed for the door. The last light touched his face, and he smiled, quiet, at peace. Behind him, the lights dimmed one by one, until only 2 lines remained glowing on the wall. "No one gets ignored. Skills can be trained, values can't." Outside, a soft breeze whispered through the awning. A few passers-by stopped, glancing through the window. They didn't know this place had once been a story. But for those who lived it, Store 7 was no longer a location. It was a reminder. If you ever think you're too small to make a difference, remember, change never starts with a crowd. It begins with one person who cares. One honest word. One small act. One look that listens. Leadership is what you do when no one's watching. Be that voice. Like, comment, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the next story.